Hello everyone and welcome on De Papier de Rêve channel. I'm Ursula and today I will be painting with you some Lily of the Valley. For this painting I want to propose to you a very easy way to paint a Lily of the Valley with a masking technique. I'm using gouache for this masking technique and just watercolor. I know you've seen me using the gouache masking technique with acrylics, but this time I'm just using watercolor. And if you do not have gouache but you have masking fluid, you can also use it in this case. I'm not an expert with using masking fluid, but it will work also the same way as gouache. So I'm starting this painting by working a background at first. I just want to place some color on my paper, some blue at the top and some greens at the bottom. And I try to keep an area quite white at the center so that my flowers that I will be masking in the next step will show as the most white as possible. Today I'm using a different paper than I'm used to. I received this paper as a test in my last paper order. So it's a paper from Fabriano. It's the Artistico paper in cold pressed. And maybe I'm not used to it, but I do not like this paper very much. But it could be also because of the texture of the paper. I think it's the cold press is not really my thing. I prefer rough paper or really smooth paper, but this is too much in between, and I think it's not for me, in fact. But other than that, it's a really good cotton paper. It handles water quite well. The sheet is a little bit small, so it buckles a bit more than I'm used to. But the colors are great on this paper, so it's a really, really nice paper. Once I'm happy with my background, I will let it dry thoroughly before applying the masking with my gouache. It's really important that at each step of this technique you let it dry thoroughly before starting the next step. So now my first layer has totally dried and I can work my masking with gouache. I'm using a liquid gouache from Schmincke. It's a really nice product because it's really fluid, so it's easy to work with, and it's really white, so it makes a really nice white with watercolor. So I'm just using my brush as like a stamp to make the shape of the flowers, and sometimes I'm drawing a tiny bit of line at the end of the shape to work a little bit more the shape of the Lily of the Valley. I'm not doing too much detail here. I'm just focusing on getting a really thick coat of gouache so that my masking will be as perfect as it can be. This is really important to work quite thick here. And I will let this layer dry also, and I will talk you through my supplies for this painting. For the brushes, I'm using an Escoda Último number 8. And a silver brush black velvet 1/4 inch. For the colors, I'm using Cobalt blue, Cerulean blue, Nickel Azo yellow, Rose Madder Lake, Lavender, and Cobalt violet. And my paper, as I said at the beginning, is from Fabriano. It's a Fabriano Artistico in cold pressed. Once my gouache has totally dry, I can start this next step, and I will just put a lot of watercolor in my paper, and I'll choose a quite darker color for this step, just because I want a high contrast between the gouache and the watercolor. and I just focus my work on not to brushing too much the gouache already on my paper, so that I will not disturb the shape too much. As gouache is water soluble, if you put too much water or brush it too much, it will disperse in the water, and the masking effect will not be present anymore. So this step is just about delicacy. You have to go a little bit around the shape so that you do not disturb too much the gouache. But if you have made a really thick coat of gouache, it will be okay. You can brush it a little bit or add a spray bottle, water spray on top of it, and it will not move too much. It will be okay. So I'm using a really dark shade of the same color of my background. So some greens at the bottom and some blues and violet at the top. And that's it. It's not about precision here. It's just building the contrast enough that the flower of Lily of the Valley will be visible in the next step. It's even the moment to have fun with the colors, and here I'm adding a little bit of violet in the green area so that this part of this painting is a little bit more interesting to look at. There is a lot of shades of greens in this area, so it will make a really interesting greeneries here. And again, I will let this layer dry thoroughly before starting the other layers. Sadly, I'm not able to show you how I remove the gouache, but here on my paper, the gouache has been removed, and I can work the details of this painting now. It's really easy to remove the gouache. In fact, I just put my paper under the sink and let the water flow on top of my paper, and then I rub delicately with my finger all the area where there is gouache until the gouache is totally dissolved in the water and drained in the sink. And now for the detail, I'm using a really weird brush. It's a dagger brush, so the hair are quite long and in a triangular shape. And this helps me to make really fine lines, but also paint some quite bigger area also because of this particular shape. And I can work this way quite well, the greeneries, the leaves and the stems of the flowers. I'm not trying to be realistic here. I just want a good idea of the greeneries around the Lily of the Valley. So I just want some texture, some right color at the right place, but that's all. And you can add also a tiny bit of lavender or cerulean blue around some flowers so that there is a little bit of shadow in there and you can have a better idea of depth in the flowers. And that's pretty much it. My flowers are done, and it's a really easy, I think, way to paint Lily of the Valley. And it's quite fun because of the masking technique I'm using. It's really fun to be able to paint the shape with white gouache and then wash it off, and they are still on the paper, really well masked from the watercolor layer. And this video is now ending. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like it. Please check the blog post for more information about it, and tell me what you think in the comments. See you soon.